Hello, and welcome to this presentation of the Federated Timesheets project Milestone 2, supported by NLNet and NGI Assure. The goal of the Federated Timesheets research project is to study how federated machine-readable data can work between independent software projects on the user-operated internet. It brings together developers from WikiSuite, Meld.io, Muze and Ponder Source. We each developed time tracking tools and brought them together in a Federated Timesheets network. I'm George Swarovski, engineer of the live information sharing technology Meld. Today we'll focus on the time tracking tool TimeMeld, which is the subject of Milestone 2. In this project we've made good use of Meld's support for live linked data. Let's quickly talk about what that means. Live linked data is structured data like timesheet entries, as well as timesheets, projects, organization data, and anything else you might need to share. It's live because it might change in any of the places you've shared it to, but it stays up to date in all locations as fast as physics allows and with as little coordination as possible. It's linked because it uses universal identifiers. So information can relate to other information via hyperlinks, just like the World Wide Web. That's important when you're sharing or federating information between different systems, as we'll see. It also allows for people to attach meaning or semantics to information and have that meaning travel around with the data. TimeMeld, our time tracking app, was developed for this project to take part in the Federation of Systems, and shows one way of architecting an application using our core technology, Meld. It's also useful to us because it has real-world security requirements, and so we'll also keep developing it in our security project, also funded by NLNet and NGI Assure. Let's have a quick look at the approach that's been taken for the Federation in this project. At the top here you'll see what we call Tier 2, or the club. That is the systems that have been developed or evolved for the purposes of this project. So we have pre-journal, which is Ponder Source's application, which has been extended with time tracking potential. Tiki Timesheets, which is an extension of WikiSuite, and TimeMeld, which is a new application which we'll talk about in this talk. Timesheet entries, that is, you do some work and you want to record the time for it, are created anywhere in this club. So the timesheet entry might be created in pre-journal or using pre-journal. It might be created using the user interface of Tiki Timesheets on the web, or it might be created using the command line interface of TimeMeld, which we'll show you. But it could also be created anywhere else within systems that are integrated with Tier 2. So the integrated systems we call Tier 1. These are the systems for which one or more club members have created some kind of connector. So you see here that pre-journal is able to import data from a large number of alternative time tracking systems. Tiki can talk to these three major time tracking systems, and can also talk to CalDAV systems, and TimeMeld can also talk to CalDAV systems. The idea is that people can use their own choice of timesheet tracking system and have that data be available by propagation into this club of members, so depending on what application their managers use or their customers use or their providers use, they can also access the information in those other systems. So you can see that there's quite a lot of connectors involved in the club itself, and if timesheet entries propagate around the club, and may even propagate outside of the club if it's integrated with another by output to another external system. The main contribution of the Federation is to stop everybody having to integrate with everyone else in order to have this property of being able to use disparate systems. And we do this by keeping track of who is able to talk to who within the club. So you can see that we have a good knowledge of the systems that we can integrate within the club, and entries, timesheet entries, propagate around the club freely. And as you can see, with TimeMeld, those entries will propagate live, and we'll show how that works. This prevents, for example, TimeMeld having to have connectors to all of those pre-journal integrations, for example, because people who are using those integrations can have their data come through pre-journal on its way to TimeMeld. So this prevents a sort of n-squared explosion of integrations or connectors. Okay, let's dive into TimeMeld itself as an app. Just ahead of time, I want to say our goals for TimeMeld in terms of its kind of characteristics as an app is that it's as straightforward as it possibly can be, and also that it's kind of architected as a cloud service. You might expect a cloud service to be architected. So there's nothing particularly new in its architecture, which I'll show you later on, except for its use of meld, and we'll show how that gives advantages later on. So it has a fairly straightforward structure, which you might recognize from lots of cloud services where you have some kind of account, you log in using your account, and then within your account you have a fairly straightforward namespace of stuff. So the stuff that's in TimeMeld, because it's a time tracking application, are timesheets themselves, but also projects and organizations, and we'll go into that in a small amount of detail. However, we didn't want to spend lots of time building a beautiful user interface, so we developed a command line interface, which has its own attractions for the likes of developers like me. It also has fairly realistic security in the sense that it's got read access control on timesheets, it's got read-write access control on timesheets, and that's all bound up in this project structure that I alluded to, and we'll see how that works. So, without further ado, let's create some timesheets entries. So, TimeMeld is a command line app. So here's my Ubuntu terminal. And in here, I'm going to use the TimeMeld command, and I'm going to open a timesheet. Let's call it Federated Timesheets 1. This is creating a timesheet within my account. So as soon as I do this, it creates timesheet. This timesheet is actually shared between this desktop, and it's also persisted and stored on something we call the gateway, which we'll talk about a bit more later on. So let's add some kind of timesheet entry. So I've got a little command line, kind of REPL loop here. So I can add let's what are we doing? We're recording a demo video. Sorry, my typing's not very fast. So this is what we're doing at the moment, and that's it. I've just created a timesheet entry. I can list the timesheet entries that already exist. Okay, so I've got a brand new timesheet. It's just this one. I started at 11:10 today, UK time. I can also edit the entry if I thought it was if I think oh that's not quite right. So I can say modify. Sorry, I should say modify. M is just the shorthand. 1, I could say end. Well, okay, let's pretend. Oh no, let's say it's going to take 10 minutes. That might be accurate. Who knows? So 37 seconds plus 10 minutes. That's how long it's going to take. So now that I've created this timesheet here, it's actually available anywhere that I've got the TimeMeld application, and I've configured it with my username. So, as an example, let's open up So this is locally on my Mac, so that's in a virtual box. But here locally on my Mac, I've got TimeMeld. Let's try and open the same timesheet. Because I'm running it locally, I've got some additional stuff to type. So what did we call it? Federated Timesheets. Did we call it 1 or 0? I can't remember. So here we're going to open it locally on the Mac, and because it's shared using Meld, all of the data that's visible in my Ubuntu VBox, which strangely is a lot faster than my Mac, is also available. Oops, I didn't open it. No wonder it wasn't happy. So we're trying to open the same timesheet. So now I'm in the timesheet. Let me just move that across a little bit. Actually, I'll move myself across a little bit. I can list the entries, and the entry that I created a moment ago in a different application, which could have been on a different machine, could have been anywhere on the internet, although you kind of hope that it was just me everywhere, is now available here. So here I can say, well, I'm also doing some kind of test on my macOS device. And let's really quickly go into here and list. And you see that this is shared. So yeah, as I say, this could be somewhere completely different, and it's shared using the magic of Meld. There's very little code within TimeMeld to do any of that sharing. It just uses Meld for its local data store, and this synchronization kind of just happens, and that's the magic of Meld. Well, let's show another feature. Let's kill the network. So let's say that this device is no longer connected to the internet. So if I list the stuff and modify item 2 and say we finished item 2. So what have we got here? The macOS device test is apparently finished. According to this, it took 49 seconds. Here, well, it's not finished yet because the network's down. So let's bring the network back up and see if it sorts itself out. Where's the network gone? Right, connect network adapter. Yes, that looks like it's connected. So now we do it again, and it hasn't synchronized yet, but now it has. So this is synchronizing using an underlying technology, Socket.io. Although it's all based on Meld's state synchronization. Okay, so far we've created a timesheet, and we've shown that it can be shared among different devices. Well, at the moment it belongs to me alone, so it belongs to so let me exit. Actually, let me exit from here. You see I've got a few test timesheets that I've been developing otherwise, but in TimeMeld I have the timesheet fedT1 at timemeld.org. And this belongs to me, it belongs to George. So what if I wanted to share that timesheet with other people? Well, so TimeMeld has got a way of doing that. At the moment, nobody else can even know this timesheet exists, let alone read it or write to it. But what I want to do is make this contribute to the Federated Timesheets project. So, let me log into an administration console. So this is just another command within TimeMeld. And let's, we have an existing organization called FedB, Federated Bookkeeping, which is the kind of parent organization of the Federated Timesheets project. And in TimeMeld, we have that as an organization account, so of which I'm an administrator. So I can log in and say, right, I'm going to start administering FedB here. And within FedB, let's have a look what the projects are. So I can list some projects. Well, there's only one project in Federated Bookkeeping at the moment. Well, it's not true, but in TimeMeld, there's only one project in Federated Bookkeeping, which is this fedT project. Now, what we want to do is see what timesheets are available in this project. So we can do that with looking for listing links. So we want to list links to the project FedT, and we'll see that there are a few timesheets linked into this project. One of them's a timesheet from Angus. There's my FedT project, which actually that's the previous FedT project, but that's my main one, not the one I just created. And Victor's got one there as well. So what I want to do is add a link to my new timesheet project. So we want to say add a link to FedT, and the timesheet that we want to add is my new timesheet. FedT, what do we call it? 1. Okay. So now if we run a report on everything that's happened in Federated Timesheets, this might be a little bit explosive. It gives us lots and lots of stuff. So here's all the stuff that's happened in Federated Timesheets. So now this is aggregating data together from those multiple timesheets that we saw earlier on. And let's see if we can't find the stuff we've just been doing. Here we have Angus's timesheet. Let's see, have we got? Oh, look, there's my timesheet. Oh, look, here's George FedT 1. So here's recording demo video, doing the macOS device test, etc., etc. And then there's Victor's timesheet. Naturally, we could have a lot more data in there, and we can stream this out to a file, and then import export it with other systems. But what we want to do is actually connect our timesheet to these other systems directly. In TimeMeld, this is done on a timesheet by timesheet basis. So what I want to do is add a connector to say I want to publish my timesheet to Tiki and to PreJournal. So let's do that. First, I'm going to exit from this account because what I want to do is administer my own timesheet using my own account. So I'll just do TimeMeld admin. That will log me in as George. So what we want to do is add the connector. So well, nice natural language going on here. So we had the connector, and the connector is called TimeMeld Tiki. This is the one that's going to send the data to Tiki. And then we need to say what timesheet we're going to do, and it's going to be this new timesheet that we've created, 51. That's going to actually immediately synchronize with Tiki. And okay, let's demonstrate that that's actually happened. So let's see what we got here. So here's the user interface for Tiki timesheets. This is showing the tracker. So this is their way of organizing. We have projects and organizations. They have these things called trackers. Within the tracker, we have all the data that's available for this Federated Timesheets project. So let's see what we got. Okay, so I've ordered by date. And now I can see that that the macOS device test and the recording of the demo video are already available in Tiki timesheets, which is great. Let's make sure that we know that this is live. So we're doing a live push to Tiki. So let's edit one of those. Let's add. So let's go TimeMeld open FedT again. FedT 1. And let's add a new entry, which is checking Tiki. Great. So let's synchronize over here, and the latest thing that's going on is checking Tiki, as you'd hope. And let's modify. Type it again because I can't be able to figure out which number it is, and let's end it now. So we finished checking Tiki. So at the moment it has no end time. If I resynchronize in the Tiki user interface, there we are. It's now ended, although I did it so quickly, you can't see that it's, well, it took less than a minute. Great. We want to also show that we can synchronize with data coming in. So what I'd like to do is because I actually, I may be an engineer, but I don't like this interface. I want to use a pretty user interface. And in fact, what I want to do is synchronize the time data that I've put into iCloud calendar with TimeMeld. So let me just do that. So let's exit out here again and do another TimeMeld admin, which will get me into my console, and I'm going to add this time a different connector. I'm going to go add connector TimeMeld CalDAV. So CalDAV is a CalDAV is a internet standard for calendaring systems, and it just so happens it works quite nicely for timesheet information as well. I need to add it to the timesheet. What is it called? 51. And I also need to give it the right location. I need to configure it with the URL of my calendar in iCloud. So I've got that obviously prepared already. Oops, I didn't include the actual config key. Okay, so now if I, well, actually just report on it from here. So if we report on 51, we should see, well, not just what we entered earlier on in this demo, but also a bunch of stuff from my my iCloud. Let's have a look at it. So this is what my iCloud looks like at the moment. And here we are on Saturday. It's a bunch of stuff I did during the week. And here we are on Saturday, and let's create a new thing, which is TimeMeld demo. Yay, recording. So hopefully we'll see now the CalDAV integration uses polling, so it polls every 10 seconds at the moment. I should have made it faster for the recording, but it's all good. Let me exit this, and let me open the timesheet again and list the items. And here we are. 30 minutes from, well, 12:30 UTC. That's the entry I just entered, and I can, of course, well, let's just assume that I'm going to keep going for another hour, and let's have a look if that's updated yet. Not yet. Give it a few seconds. Okay, now it's updated. Sadly, CalDAV don't have a kind of live events interface. Okay, so we've seen that we have live data coming into TimeMeld, and we've seen that we've got live data going out of TimeMeld. Let's have a look if that data has appeared in Tiki. So if I synchronize again, we'll see that the data actually came from the iCloud, went through TimeMeld, and came out the other end, and it's now in Tiki Timesheets. So let's have a quick look at how all this works internally. So I just want to show you the API. So here in the TimeMeld repository, it's very straightforwardly on GitHub. We have obviously just some top-level information and all of the code, so you're welcome to read the code, of course. In documentation, we've got API documentation. If you want to push data into TimeMeld, you can use this importing endpoint, and you can also do a reporting endpoint to get data out of TimeMeld, which use the same JSON-ND format. Well, it's JSON-ND, newline-delimited JSON, where the JSON itself is JSON-LD, which is an RDF serialization. And here's where we see the linked data. So actually, let's do this for real. Let's have a report on. So I've got my my authorization set up, so I can run this. I can do a get from this endpoint. So here we're getting from timemeld.org. Its API. We're reporting on Angus's timesheet. So this is actually the timesheet we saw before. If I run this, presumably it's doing things under the hood. Yeah, okay. Let's make sure that, yeah, so that's actually doing something. So here we have the output. So this is everything that was in Angus's timesheet. You can see there's loads of stuff here, and here's all the JSON-LD of all the data that he had. These are timesheet entries. There's a timesheet itself is output at the top, and then down here we have all of the entries. The entries have the start time, the provider. The provider is, in this case, Angus. You can see here that some of these JSON keys look a bit elaborate, and that's because this is linked data. So this includes links to well-described vocabularies. In this case, we've got something called value flows, and you can have a look at the context in Timemeld and see that value flows corresponds to a vocabulary for business integrations that's been used around the world, and here we have a field that corresponds to one of the vocabulary entries. So here's the provider of the timesheet entry, and in this case it's using Angus's account. So here's the universal resource identifier for Angus's account in Timemeld. So this uniquely identifies Angus within Timemeld, and other systems can use this identifier to coordinate, well, who is Angus, and link data, and we can create records in other systems which are also reference Angus, and we know that they reference the same thing because they're using the same identifier. Lots and lots of detail available there, and if you want to learn more about linked data, then there are plenty of links, and we'll add them in the description. So what's the architecture involved in Timemeld? Well, the Timemeld project has got its own architecture section in the code where we've drawn a load of pictures. So let's have just a really quick run through of what's available in here. Here we have a bunch of use cases. So we were just planning out how we were going to what functionality we were going to build in the application. So obviously within a timesheet session, we've got all the things that we've already shown. Within an administration session, you can see there's a lot more going on, even though the administration session looked quite straightforward. I can do all sorts of things involved in administering my account projects, any accounts that I'm an administrator of, all this kind of adding links and listing links, and also adding these connectors. We've got a very simple deployment architecture. So here I just want to show that that this is a relatively straightforward cloud application in terms of its deployment. So you've got user devices with the command line on there. You've got a cloud platform running Node.js, where there's this thing called the gateway, which is the application, the service that manages the accounts and the projects. And here's some connectors to other systems. One thing you might see that looks a little odd about this is that because we're using Meld, you've got this kind of slightly strange thing that what looks like a database is sitting inside, embedded within a CLI, instead of being something that's on the internet and shared, or on some kind of cloud service and shared. That's because we're using Meld, so we don't have a database as such. What we have is a local. So here we have one of the timesheets. So this is a timesheet that's being stored. And it's actually stored locally. As you saw, we were able to do things while we were offline, and those things are not lost. So if I exited or even killed that Ubuntu session and reopened it, we'd still have that timesheet, even with the changes I'd made locally, even when we're offline. So it's using local storage, but it's synchronized, and we're using this library socket.io for the remoting between meld clones here. It's synchronized with the a timesheet that's also stood up in the gateway, and again it's embedded. In this case, it's storing. So the gateway is storing the timesheets on a volume, so on an attached volume, which is managed by the cloud provider. I mentioned that we've got projects and organizations too. Those are a separate meld domain. And so within the gateway, we've got also a gateway domain. This is private because it's not something you synchronize with the local application. The local application actually makes REST calls, as you see here, for administration. So that admin interface is online only. It's making calls to the gateway domain. This is very interesting from a security perspective. Obviously, having it private means that we can control the access using the API, but it does mean that also we can't share this to the local devices. What would be better in future is to be able to share just part of the gateway domain with the local devices and control that with security. And that's the kind of interesting thing that we're looking at in the security project. What else have we got in here? We've got some integration architecture, which you can have a look at. We've got some security architecture. So here's where we're trying to figure out what are the rules involved in configuring the project and the organization security, and also how that's actually done in terms of stories with the user interface. So here's some use cases. So there's a bit more detail on how the security is actually done within the gateway. So how projects are controlled and organization access is controlled. And you can read much more about that, and there's even some detailed description of how the CLI gets its access keys, so that we can be sure of who people are, who they say they are. And as you can see, that uses offline emails so we confirm that somebody who's trying to log in using the CLI has an email address that we either already know about, or if it's a new account, then we confirm that they actually exist as a human being, and that they can access their email. And then from then on, any access to that account requires either that email, or the user is also able to log in and administer their own account and add an email, as you may have seen before in the use cases. So fairly straightforward, normal cloud service type interactions, but using Meld behind the scenes, which makes all of this online multi-device, multiplayer thing possible. Okay, so let's try and summarize. Let's recap. We've used Meld to create a time tracking app, TimeMeld, which persists timesheet data both locally and on the gateway. Using Meld allows the app to be used offline and to synchronize between devices. We haven't shown you any code today. It's all open source, so you can have a look and you can have a play, and you can even set up your own gateway and explore it in that way by running it. As a member of the Tier 2 Federation Club, as I explained earlier on, TimeMeld can receive data from other club members, and it can also from any other system that they integrate with. TimeMeld itself comes with a connector to receive data live, polling, from systems with supporting the CalDAV standard, and we showed you Apple iCloud. And we've shown that the data that data is also shared live to any other club members. That sharing is the baseline requirement for membership of the club, of the federation. That itself is just a very simple, powerful idea that's at the heart of this Federated Timesheets project that saves a lot of engineering expense, because You don't have to develop connectors between every system and every other system. All the websites and the artifacts we've talked about are linked in the description below. If you'd like to learn more about this project or about Meld, use the contact links to get in touch, and please like and subscribe.